a process for handling accounts payable invoices that seems to work very well. The return on investment's good. It's what we consider a single touch process. We've been able to reduce the cost of processing accounts payable invoices by minimizing the cost of the touch tremendously down, 20% of what it actually costs. We've been able to become more efficient because all the touches are electronic, and we perfected that with about 25,000 users for the last 12 years. So when we looked at core cloud systems, we wanted to develop a system for all the other forms and documents that are that you would use in a construction company and gain the same kind of response or the same kind of return on investment that you would see within in the accounts payable system in our core cloud system. We took it a step further in the fact that we realized that with the onslaught of mobile devices like the iPads and the smartphones and all the different devices that you can get, construction companies were rushing to the market to buy the devices, and then right behind that came a rush to the market with applications. So now what you're currently seeing is what we call Appageddon, which means that you have 5 or 6 applications that are out in the field to do specific things. You get confusion in the field, and all of a sudden you've got a service or a support nightmare in trying to deploy your mobile strategy. So what we did is we built a development tool that we could rapidly build and create applications around a form concept and then deploy that to the field and give it to the user so they could build their own mobile apps. And that's basically what Core Cloud Systems is, on top of the fact that it's a true portal. So in the event that you would require a portal, or you wanted to be able to allow some of your business partners to come in and participate in the portal, it is just that. And as we mature the product over the next year, you're going to see more of a Facebook style approach to that, to the sharing and collaboration of data. But for today's purposes, I'm going to talk specifically about the development tools and how we can create applications and mobilize a lot of the functionality in your operation. We built it so that it's fully integrated. So that means that any questions that we ask out in the field, we can have a validated response from your Sage products, whether it's C100 or 300, and so that you can get what we call entry point validation. That means that if I can deploy entry point validation, then I can take that information and automatically upload it to the ERP applications, whether you're using Sage 100 or Sage 300. A typical example would be payroll. We can have timesheets in the field that are getting coded and costed, and as those things process through our system, what's going to happen is that we're going to automatically create the transaction that sends into Sage so that the data doesn't have to be double entered. And that's what you've seen in the accounts payable solution that we've delivered from Core. Now we can do that with all the other actual solutions that we deliver inside that. The third thing that we want to talk about is what we call our single user interface. That means that as we deploy these applications in the field, it's in one wrapper. That way the users don't get confused. They know to go to that wrapper, they see it, it's consistent, and as they use the applications and we define the applications for that user, it's a common interface. We call that a single user interface. And then I guess fourthly, and I combined it here, is the fact that it's a single supplier support. Just as the same aspect that you have with Alliance now, that they can give you that single vendor support for all of these different applications. So you're not chasing, like in the app world right now, you're chasing down different vendors who typically do not have the same support that you get with TimberScan and Alliance, and you're having to email, and you got a guy in the field that's stuck and he needs somebody to call him immediately. You don't get that with these apps. Well, with the Core Cloud system, you do, not only through your supplier or your dealer, but you also get this from the Core family that sits in our help desk. So this is kind of some of the things that you look at. It's all built on our rapid deployment tool. I told you up front that we use the form as our, I guess, our UPS truck, our logistics tool. It's common. Everybody's familiar with forms, so that we typically use the forms, and we make them to where the users can basically build their own forms. They come completely integrated so that you can have validation. And the other side is the fact that once a form is generated, we have workflow components that you can route and get approval on certain forms or grab signatures and so on and so forth. What makes us totally different than all of our competitors is that we're built on what we call a big data concept. And that means that every bit of information that we collect, we store, so that we can then turn around and provide reporting, we can provide integration, we can provide single touch upgrades. So whether it's a purchase order, a timesheet, or a credit card app, we can basically do that and take that information and bring it in so that we can use it repeatedly throughout the system so that we don't have to double enter that data. And then of course our global folders is very much just like Dropbox. So it allows you to, because we're a portal, we can store information and distribute it between the users of the portal. We deliver the system with 9 standard forms. You can see that as you read down the form list, they're common forms. So you can pretty much buy the system, get it installed, turn it on, and you can start doing these forms, and they're completely integrated. And then all you have to do is put the workflow on it. Now, you can always modify these forms, or you can add your own. So we're going to train you in the initial setup. We're going to train you how to build your own forms so that you can do these things yourself. So at the end of the day, this is basically the form templates that we deliver. Now, you notice on the right-hand side, these are what we call our modules or our solutions. When we first started out, we said, you know what, we're going to do credit card receipts. And that was solving the problem of just getting the receipt in an organized fashion into the office so that it can be, processed through the credit card process that is actually being used. Then we took it a step further and said, well, why not just automate the whole process? So we built a reconciliation module that actually downloads transactions from your vendor, matches it up with the receipts, and then creates the accounts payable transaction in version 300, Sage 300. And in version 100, we actually push the receipt directly into the credit card screen that you have in the Sage 100 module. Well, we've done that with employee timesheets. We created the payroll module. We have change orders and purchase orders. We built our purchase order and our inventory control and bill of material modules. We have an equipment module that we have for logistics forms, so that in equipment movement, we can manage the movement between job sites and in the main office. We have just introduced our service module that has dispatching for HVAC and electrical contractors. We have a full work ticket system for work order management for industrial service companies that do work orders, that has a dispatch component on the front end. And we're finishing up our project management solution that will also be one of the products that are built inside of our extended module functionality. Just to kind of give you, what's this? Hit the wrong button. So basically here, going into the actual demonstration, this is kind of a quick video that you can see in the process of things where you build the form in the field. The form can have various types of questions. You can gather pictures, signatures, temperature, date, time, amount, things like that. And then basically from there, you can push them through the system, and that's where they can be approved and signatured or whatever they need to be done for the workflow. And then when they're done, we can either push them into TimberScan, we can push them into T100, which is our 100 TimberScan version, or we can push them into Sage 300. And everything is bidirectional. So we have bidirectional integration all the way down to basically pushing the transactions back into Sage. So you can see right away, it's a fully automated process to where now you can start mobilizing your field and starting the processes out in the field. This is a quick video that I'll show you. It's a kind of a representation of what we have. And you'll notice right away that the way our software scales is it doesn't matter what device you're on. If you're coming in through the web browsers, it knows what kind of device it is, and it scales itself to fit that. It's kind of like a chameleon lizard, it kind of fits itself to that device. But in this particular case, you can see big buttons, easy to use. We're going to be doing a daily report here. It's job oriented, so you can assign forms to jobs. In this case, this is a simple daily report. And you'll see the ease of use is such that anybody in a field could basically fill this form out. So if they want to put in the date, it's got a date modal, a temperature modal, and you see some of the examples of the answer types that we have. These are list tables where you can get consistency in your data. So if I wanted to say all the rain days that happened on that job, I have a standard data interface there. We have text entries and things like that, numeric entries. So as it goes down the list here, you'll see that you can set that up and make it to where whatever form you need. We organize by categories. We have information type questions like list employees on the job. And then down here on the subcontractors, when you do the lookup, it's going to show the vendors for that particular job. So they're not having to peruse through the whole list of vendors to get to that vendor. So we can isolate this down by job. And of course, as this goes down the road, you can see we have different types of questions. And this is just an example of a daily report. Now, on submission, this particular form is going to route to someone who's going to drop their signature and on that. So it could be a project manager who basically signs it and approves it. And then when they're done with this, they're going to pretty much submit that form. Now, if you're using our T100 or our AIM product, we have it integrated such that you can automatically now send that form into AIM or into T100 so that it can be stored and indexed and automatically retrieved like I'm doing here by those indexes. Well, if you didn't have our system integrated, you'd have to scan an index or drag and drop and index these documents to get them into the system, which is kind of a headache when you're looking at document management. But since these documents come in automatically, you can now start deploying a centralized file cabinet that's index-based through our AIM product, which now comes free with TimberScan. And you can now put those documents into one central repository. And once you put in your selection, it's going to show you the view of all the options that match that criteria, and then you'll be able to view the actual image output that came with the form. Now, I'll stop here and tell you that the image output is user definable. So if you don't like the way this looks, you can always change it, put your own branding on it, maybe your own colors, so that basically you now have the ability to have that daily report look exactly like the one that you have now. Now, by virtue of using T100 or AIM, it automatically attaches itself to user-defined areas inside. This is this is Sage 300, but if you're in Sage 100, it would do the same thing. So just by virtue of doing that form one time, you entered the information once, everything else was electronically routed, it was automatically stored and automatically attached inside of Sage. So you can appreciate that same functionality works with accounts payable invoices. So what we did is we just took all the other forms and you can put them on the same workflow path and get the same efficiency that you typically get with that particular system. All right, so basically here what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take a couple of steps through here so that you can see how simple it is to basically create the form. The form wizard itself, let me jump out of here and we'll go into the application. The form wizard itself is very straightforward. When you go into form management, and this is the screen, you go in and design your forms. And if you'll notice again, when you go to create that form, and I'm just going to pull one up for editing. I'm going to go look at that daily report since that's a real common what you just saw. So you can see how I have this organized by general information, employees on the job, subcontractors on the job, and these are the categories, the general info, the bulleted items here, and then the questions within the categories. So if I drop over here to the question section, and let's just go to the general information question, you can see the different types of questions. So like job is a lookup and it's tied to a table called TL jobs. Well, if you're in the Sage world, TL jobs is the Timberline jobs file. On the Sage side, it has a different name. But what we do is all of this, you just touch the button, it goes in there and says, what kind of question is it? And then you tell it what table and what field you want to be able to validate against. So that's how simple it is to assign a question type to a particular question. You can even have the question like down here in Louisiana, a lot of times our guys put the Spanish equivalent to the question name, so that if they got Hispanic workers, then they can read it in Spanish as opposed to in English. You got date and time questions, temperature questions, table lists, numerical questions. All of these are just basically in the answer types, and you can come down here and see that we have just a variety of different answer types with our solution. That's the screen design. Now, once you get finished with that, if you jump over here to notifications, this is where, as I go through the system, the other thing that we do here is we allow you the ability to come in and build the XML mapping. And what this does is this allows us, or the users themselves, to be able to come into the system and to be able to select the document type that they set up in either AIM or in T100, And once they selected that document type, so down here, let's just say I'm going to pick my sample daily report, then down here, this is where I assign the indexes to the actual questions. So I would pick out the questions here and then assign it to these indexes that are on the left-hand side here. So this, again, it's all automatic, user definable, so you can now create applications in the field that will basically come in and automatically be sent inside into Sage and also into our products for timber scanning aid. Okay, so let's go through and that's the setup of the file. You can also come into the system here and build your own report design. So if you come into our solution and you go into the report designer, this is what it's built on a product called Dev Express. You can get training for it, and it's a very, very good product, you know, to use. It's very much like Crystal Reports, and you can come through here and virtually build any kind of output form that you can think of, because it has that kind of power and process. It's built on what we call WYSIWYG, so it's like a Word document, and then you you know, you create and draw what you want, and then from there you can actually go through and attach that report output to that individual form. So not only do you have that, you also have the routing capability. So for instance, in our system, you can come in here and set up a route rule for that says, like in this linear routing example, we can take Mike Carbonneau sees it first and Bernard sees it next. So what happens is on submit, if I come in and assign that route rule to a form, then when it comes in to the user that's going to be approving it, it comes into their inbox. And when they get it, they can literally open up that form and make edit changes. So it's like passing around a piece of paper that hasn't been finalized yet. It's like redlining, but what you're doing is you're creating a form and building a workflow so that that form itself can step itself through the work process and get scrubbed before it actually gets finalized and put into your system as a final document, or actually emailed out to the vendor or whoever the person is that needs the distribution. So this could be a contract, this could be a notice to proceed, it could be an RFI. There's all sorts of different forms that you can create and have different distributions. And so when you're talking about the distributions, when you set up the users or the jobs, basically what happens is you assign those users and jobs not only the forms that they're going to work on, but also the routing and the distribution. So in this particular case, I may have a vacation request form that's assigned to me, but whenever I fill out that form, it goes to Sally. But if Fred fills it out, it goes to John. So the same form could have different route rules based on the user or the job or the form itself, or it could be done on a manual route, which you can do at any given time. The second thing of user setup is that basically in the job section, you can assign users to jobs, so that then when you assign the form to the job, when the user logs into a system and he goes to My Jobs, he only sees the jobs that he has access to. And matter of fact, from a security standpoint, he would drill into that job and do the forms that are associated with that job. And in his case, he could only see the forms that he submitted, or if he has a certain role, he can see all forms that are submitted. So one of the things that you're going to see is that we track, you remember I said we track every bit of information. So all of this is called big data. Because we created the form and we've collected the answers, and I'll just pull this up right here. Since we created the form and collected the answers here, at any given time, I can come in and regenerate the form, even if the form had a picture on it or anything like that. So this is big data. So not only does it allow me the ability to be able to reproduce the image documentation from the actual core data, but it also gives me the ability within our search parameters to be able to search content, individual content or reference content, so that you have full access to that information. And more so than that, this is in the cloud, so this can be searched on a smartphone. So if I wanted to say, come back here and be able to you know, take a look at the document or the image or whatever, I can go in there and search it out. In this particular case right here, for instance, here, if I'm looking for, I have search capability to go search all the invoices for Ace Drywall. I could even put in a date in here if I want to. I could filter and sort by date. But you can see it's very robust. And then in our searching tools, you can go through there and do advanced searches on, say, the purchase order document. And if I say I'm going to search out the purchase order document between, I'm going to back up this a little bit here. So I'll go back to September. And I want to see something where we bought, let's say from Ace. Okay, if I go in here and then search, it's going to go down there and show me all the documents in here where I bought from Ace. And not only will it search the reference header, but if I drill down into here and I say, I want to go look at toilet parts. So if I came back on here and said, I'm going to do my search again, but in this case, instead of Ace, I'm going to put in toilet parts. So I'm going to say toilet. When I go to search this here, it's actually searching the component. You see, so it's bypassed the reference, but and now I've drilled into this form, and sure enough, there's toilet or commode, and I probably misspelled that. But at the end of the day, you can see the data, and this is called big data. We can go in and generate reports off of it. We can search off of it. All the information is accessible so that we can do different things with the information so that it's not stagnant. It's building on top of a data warehouse that you can now use some of the tools that Sage has, and also some of the tools that are third party like us that you can go drill down and get to that data. All right, so I'm gonna kind of keep on going here. It looks to me like we've got 5 in here, so let me look at my chat, see if I got anything. Okay, I'm just looking. If you do have a question, you have a chat box, and I'll kind of monitor that a little bit, and we can take some questions as we go through. So basically, this is what the core cloud system is. It delivers like this. You have all of the options that come into the system for form processing, and you have that list of forms that came in. Now, the other side of the coin is our solutions pack. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that because these are add-on modules that you can get to the system that basically allow you to do different things with the software. And I'm going to go ahead and let me kind of bounce back through here. And this is one of our applications that we have, and it's for purchase order processing. And what you're going to see in this particular example is that I could do a field PO, or I could create a purchase order that would basically be entered in the field, and then it can get routed either as a form or it can go in as a grid transaction to be reviewed and coded. And then once it's posted, it can go in and become a commitment inside of Sage, and the image of that PO can go over here into TimberScan or even Sage Paperless as a support document for that invoice. Now, if it's going into Sage 100, it would go in as a PO. So you can see I can start off documentation in the field and have it automatically update back into the ERP system that you're using without having to double touch with the paper. And the logistics, no longer it's immediate. So you can get these things in as quick as possible. The same thing applies to the delivery tickets. The delivery ticket form could be entered here, a picture taken of the delivery receipt and dropped in and sent into Sage 100. So that what ends up happening there is when you're inside of the TimberScan products, whether T100 or Sage 100, you can go through a 3-way matching component. And what you'll have, if you're using your commitments, you can go through here and basically do a 3-way match and eliminate some of the routing and approval that you may need after the fact, because you're actually doing the approval and stuff on the front end. So you can introduce that type of a standard operating procedure into your organization by virtue of deploying Core Cloud with the field POs and in that respect. Now, another thing that I will tell you that we're doing is our goal over the next year is to be able to eliminate accounts payable data entry. We've actually done it. We've basically, if you utilize our Core Cloud system and our purchase order and receiving function, and you create POs or commitments inside of Sage, then what happens is that you can use our capture tool, which is our OCR capturing of the invoice. It reads the data from the template of the invoice and automatically fills out the header information. And then whenever you do the receiving transaction, it ties itself to the individual line transactions, so the distribution lines get automatically entered. And we call that vouchering the receiver. So we've been able to eliminate, 99%, well, really 100% of the data entry by using those two methodologies. And for you guys that have high volume invoice processing and you're doing detailed POs, I can save your accounts payable clerks a whole lot of time by automating this process. So anyway, this is our purchasing functionality. The next step of the puzzle is going to be our payroll. I'm going to show you a slide on this just so that you can see, and I'm going to start right here. When we built payroll, we looked out there in the world of payroll and timekeeping, and recognized that you know, a lot of the systems are used just for the field, or they're used, you know, they're not used 100% in the company. And we didn't really like the workflow of some of the systems. So what we did is we built it backwards. So we basically built a grid and said, this is going to be our payroll's dashboard. So, and then on the front end, because Core Cloud is so flexible, we can either create our own custom timesheets for the different departments that we might use, or we could use some of our specialized timesheets that we've developed and deploy them either in a desktop or a mobile app. And then all those timesheets can automatically flow right into the grid. Now, and then this grid can be taken apart, and we can take this grid and face it to the PMs so that they only have to, or the supervisors, and they only see the time that they have to approve. So if you have guys working across different PMs or different supervisors, they're only approving the time that they have, and then the payroll processor sees the whole picture in their dashboard. And then once that's actually done, then we send those transactions automatically over into Sage. So when you see that, just to give you a couple of examples of that, we deliver the system with a weekly timesheet for employees to fill out. And this is how most of our guys do it. And this is a form they can put in their name, or they can be filling out the form for somebody else. This is the job. Now, this is going to be, I'm going to say I'm going to work the Clackamas job. So you see how it's digital, it's doing a Google search. So if I don't know the numbers or the names, I can just type what I know, and it typically gives me a hit. This is where I pick my date. Let's say I worked 8 hours on that job, and this is regular time. And again, these are completely user definable, but we use the cost codes and all that are completely integrated. So all of this has the ability to be able to, you know, give you that validation on that front end. Now, in this case, maybe if I'm doing a weekly timesheet, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick my second day. So I would save this, come back tomorrow, and come in and enter my second day. So I got my second day's time in here. Maybe I worked 4 hours. So you can see I can just build upon my list, or I can do a submission each day, which is the way we like to teach people how to do this. But as you go through the process of building in your time, you can just continually do this. And then at this point, you could have some authorization signatures on here if you wanted to. Like if you're in California, you might have to do that. But at the end of the day, right here, basically, once you've submitted that timesheet, it can take one of two routes. The first route could be that it actually gets sent as a timesheet form into your supervisor's mailbox, so that they would come in here and view the timesheet just as you entered it. And then they could come in here and make the change, drop their signature if they needed to. But then once they were done with it, they would then submit it. Or the second way is it could come straight into one of those grids. And so if you come over here and you look at the, whoops, wrong spot. Let me get out of here, and I'm going to jump into another application here. You guys are LSU folks. You got Powdog. There we go. Didn't show him. That's LSU up there at the top. But here, basically, what I'm going to do is this is an example of the grid, so that as you're putting in that time, let me go back here. I'm just going to set up this time. I did one this morning, and so I'm going to just pick a few days here. And then this allows me to go see that time as it was entered on that timesheet. Now, I can drill back down to the original transaction. So if I needed to make an edit on that time, it would drill me back here. And you can appreciate this was not done the way I just did it, but this drills back to another timesheet here. But basically, I have drill back control of that timesheet. I can approve them. So if I'm a project manager and I only see my time, I can come over here and see each individual person as they spread their time across the week. And I probably wouldn't see export to CSV or reset exported. These two would go off if I'm just a PM. But if I'm the AP processor, I'm sorry, the payroll processor, then I see everybody's time. and I can sort this by job. I can sort this by employee. If there's reimbursements that were entered on the timesheet, I can collect those. We have a missing time report, so it tells us, who in the system has time, who doesn't, who's forgot. And this can have different business rules. So at the end of the day, what you're seeing here is the ability to be able to go through the system and create the timesheet, use the ones that are specific to that department, and then feed it back to our payroll grid. And once it's good in the grid, then all you would do there is just come over here and take those time transactions and export those to your payroll system. Okay, so that's payroll. We also have in our solution just a couple of other applications. We have our credit card application, and the best way to show you credit card is kind of in the videos, because what it does, it's very straightforward. This is one of probably our most predominant systems that we sell. Credit card processing, if you have over 20 or 30 different cards, this thing can cut out 80% of the work. You create a form that collects the credit card receipt. That receipt can either be coded on the spot and validated, or they could just enter basic information. It comes into another area to get coded. And then once it's submitted, it can go into our reconciliation program where you download the transactions from your vendor and match them up so that this is a reconciliation component. You can ding back the cardholder if you're missing a receipt, so it gives you all of that functionality. And then once you're through, it automatically creates the entry that goes into TimberScan or T100. Or in Sage 100's case, we can push the transactions into the credit card entry screen. But what you can see on our credit card program, that this whole transaction is electronically processed, because the only paper touch is going to be the guy in the field who actually does that transaction. Just to show you how simple that is, I have a little video here that basically will show you the entry of that credit card receipt on my phone. This happens to be my phone. So I'm going to hit that eForms icon, and when I do, it launches the mobile app. Now this is our untethered mobile app that you get from the stores, and you can see big buttons, my forms, credit card receipts, receipt information. It's touch and go. Date, touch the date. The card is a list table that shows me all the cards that that particular person has, and it's getting read out of our reconciliation component. So you can see I'm going to pick the card that I'm going to use. And then here I can type in the vendor, or I could dictate the vendor. And you'll see the dictation component here in just a minute. In this particular receipt choice, I'm going to go ahead and take the picture of the receipt immediately, but I could also take the picture and then put it in my gallery and come back later and pick it up. But you can see there's the cost codes. I could have the jobs. I could have all of that's going to be just a straight lookup if I know how to code. If I don't enter them, and those get entered by somebody else down the line. But you can see how simple this is. It's very simple to use. This is dictation, and you can see how that works. And then in this case, I'm going to go ahead and capture that receipt. So I got to teach you guys how to focus. And then once they get it focused, then they can basically take the receipt and then hit submit, and that particular transaction is often into the system. So that piece right there is our credit card product, and we also have the whole reconciliation component behind that that handles that transaction. And this is so that's on our credit card solution. The next solution that we have is a solution that we have for complete bill of material management, inventory control, and materials management. This has been a product that we've been working on for about a year and a half. We've got about 10 clients that have been helping us build the system. What you're going to see here is that it replaces the inventory and the purchase order system that is offered by Sage. It's mobile, so all the transactions that you would do in your inventory solution or material management solution, from creating POs, receiving POs, transferring and consuming items, and putting items on reserve for a job, all of those things can be done off your mobile phone untethered from the internet. So that basically when it syncs up, like if you generate a purchase order here, it automatically flows in and sets itself up here in the system so that a purchasing person could actually go through and finish the process. We built it to eliminate touches. So for instance, on the purchase order side, when you create the purchase order, bring it into the system, and the purchasing agent says, yeah, that's good. He touches the button, it automatically does these things. It sends a vendor a PO, it goes into the commitment module or the PO module, and then it creates an image that goes over into Sage, into Timberline. So all of that gets done on a one-click function. So this is web-based, so it can be accessed through any web browser from any place. So you can appreciate in our material management solution, we built it so that we would have the ability now to do a lot of different things with material management. We're releasing our bidding system in the first quarter of next year, where the purchasing department can go in and create a bid worksheet for the items that they want to buy, and then it will send out to the vendors that supply that item an email with a link back to the system where they could enter their pricing. And then we have that same worksheet as a pricing grid so they can see. And then once they select the vendor they want to buy the material from, they just go through there and select it, and it auto generates the master purchase order and reserves those items into the job file. So it has a lot of functionality when it comes to doing that. We also built in our system, our auto receiving or our receiving voucher system, so that when you generate a purchase order and you bring it into the system and you do the receiving on that PO, it will automatically do the data entry for you here in TimberScan, so that we eliminate all the, like if you did a 50-line PO, you would not have to enter 50 individual lines on that PO when the invoice comes in and you select the commitment. It does all that for you automatically. So again, our material system, you can import your bill of material list for the jobs through Timberline estimating or any other estimating system. So it has all this functionality that we have to be basically just manage material. And you can set up locations. The locations could be jobs. This handles light manufacturing for you guys that do sheet metal or maybe build trusses or whatever. We can actually come in and build a WIP schedule, so you can go through the whole process of transferring and consuming and reserving as you organize your work schedules or your workloads or your assemblies. You can go through there and do that. So it's got a lot of functionality from that perspective. Again, it's mobilized and it's also web-based. So it's a pretty cool system. But what's really unique about it, it's still inside of our family of products. So, the same thing with equipment approval. We got an equipment approval module to where you can go through here and you can see that piece right here that goes through there. So we have a whole logistics program where you can sign out the equipment during mobilization, transfer equipment between jobs, and at any given time you can see the equipment history or you can see the job history of what you have on that job. And then from that equipment list, which we can use the standard equipment modules that are built into Sage, we can then do PM schedules. We can do all sorts of different things to billing documents if you want to be able to bill equipment and so on and so forth. And that's one of the pieces of that puzzle that we have that's coming out on the equipment side. This is a new product that we're introducing. We have a full, my bad, scan. I'm gonna fix this. This is another module that we've actually got a lot of traction on this. This is a system, it's a work order system. Basically what it does is very much like where you create work tickets. And in this particular case, you can go into the system and build a work ticket. And from there, we can track different things. So I'm just gonna pull one up so that you can kind of see the example here. You can build out the header information of that work ticket. And it has a whole routing functionality where you can, set the work order up and then route it around for approval. But when you get down into this section right here, like for instance, under labor and equipment, like employees, as you pick these employees through here, this is all integrated with payroll. So as you put in your time for that employee on that work ticket, this gets consumed in that grid. And this becomes a supporting document or the source document for that particular transaction from payroll. The same thing applies to like trucks. So if you had equipment for your trucks and you wanted to put those on the job site or tools, you can pull all those things here and have those set up to where basically on the work order, this could be a billable function, like if it's recoverable or not, and so on and so forth. on the material side, this can either be freeform materials, or you could come in here and pick the location, and then from there, pick the materials for that location as you go through the process. So if I'm, adding this piece and this piece and this piece here, then I've added this material to that work order and this is all integrated with both our purchasing system and our inventory system. So if it's part of inventory, it will requisition a transfer to that work ticket, or if it's not part of the purchasing system, it'll generate a request and send it open to the purchasing department to order this product. So this whole purchasing and inventory system or material system is all integrated with all the other applications that we sell. You can build other types of things here that you might want to submit. You can have third-party rentals, and this can come from a table that you build. Once it's actually said and done, you do have the ability here, once it comes in, like this is the sign off for the person who is, maybe the owner foreman that's out on the field. That's how, he would sign that out. And then of course on the billing side, this is where, and let me back up here and go into our billing section and just show you, this is the billing, these are the ones that are ready to be billed. And let's see if they've worked on let's see, 12187. Let's see. 12187, 12187, enter, tab. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm gonna, they probably cleared out my stuff here. Is equal to, let's see, yeah, they must have cleared it out. So anyway, let's go back here and I'll try to find another one that I have. So on the billing side, like if I come in here and open this one up right here, what you can see is down here on the bottom that, this is all their billing transactions. But then when they click over here to the billing side, this is reading rate tables. So what this is actually doing is it's gone through and it's pulled out all the information and applied all the billing transactions to that to get the markups and the unit prices and so on and so forth. And from there, you can go get the report, and this can be your actual billing report that you generate. So appreciate a couple of things in closing. I'm showing you a lot of this as we go down the line here, but I want you to appreciate what we're doing with our system. That is that we're continually growing out our solutions opportunities. We're looking at and we're building out to where our concept of single user entry and web mobile is what we're trying to proliferate. And the fact that we see in the market space a value for a product called SharePoint, but it was too difficult to use. So what we did is we took that concept and we said, you know what, we can make it better. We can make it to where our users can actually set these things up themselves and have true collaborative portals. And so what we're doing in our next release of the software is going to be releasing a more friendly type portal to where you can now have, it'll have HR support, it'll do self-serve HR, it'll collect data from Sage to publish your check stubs and things like that, W-2s. Our project management software, we already have the forms, we're just gonna wrap it up and put in a whole subcontractor management component for billing and receiving. And all of this integrates with Sage, so, and also TimberScan. So when you consider where we're headed with the product in Core Cloud, there's a robust aspect to the system, but in simplest terms, it's a simple thing in the fact that it does the basic functionality of forms and it automates those transactions, and it uses the same philosophy that we had when we built the paperless accounts payable system. It's a win if you're using it. If you're not using it, you need to consider using it. It's a win-win proposition. Passing around paper in the near future is going to be just a thing of the past, and we think that as we go down the road and we start mobilizing and making these other forms electronic, all of a sudden the information flow into the office is going to be just so much better than what it is now. So I'll open up the floor for the last 10 minutes for some questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Steve, for all that information. Everybody, if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them in the questions box of the GoToMeeting control panel. I am monitoring that, or in the chat session. And everybody, there's a lot of a lot of neat functionality in with this system. It's gonna, we're expecting it to. Well, it's already starting to take off, but take off even more. All right, we do have a question here. Do you have documentation of the specific workflows?
We have videos that kind of that have examples of workflows. The beauty of our software, and this is something I've been doing this software development for 30 years, and I'm an operations specialist in construction. And when I built the system, what I wanted to be able to do is not define the workflow. I wanted our clients to be able to define their workflow that they use and let our system adapt to that. So where I do have some best practices workflows that we have designed in the processes, I can get you some videos on that, and they're on our website. So if you wanted to put, Tim, a link to our website, and they can go through like credit card and purchase order and things like that, those are some best practices workflows. But appreciate the fact that this is it's a type of product that I'm not going to make you conform to our processes. We'll adjust ourselves to yours.
All right. Yeah, I like that's a kind of a good answer, because not everybody's workflows are exactly the same. So you do have suggested workflows. All right, great.
Right.
A pricing question: how's the system priced? I know our reps are going to be following up with everybody to answer any specific questions about that. I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, Steve.
Well, let me say this about pricing. What we've made an attempt to do with our pricing is we like the QuickBooks model. We want to try to get more and more folks as users on our system. And so what we've done is we've priced it very competitively. So when you start comparing us with the other guys, like if you were to take our credit card module and look at Concur or Expensify, I'm literally 1/2 their price. If you looked at some of the other things that we compete against, we're either equal to their prices or less. So, and we're trying to drive those prices down because we have this rapid development tool. And see, we can write code at 1/10 of the time that it takes most people to write code. So even in our custom, which I didn't tell you all that, we do custom programming. We've done some huge custom projects built on our platform where the customer said, we want a custom application to do this. So we build it on top of our rapid development tools. So those products, those systems that we do where they're customized, we're saving customers 50% to 60% of the cost that they get priced for a typical programming shop. So that's the other aspect of Core that I forgot to kind of mention, is that it doesn't, not only do we not box you into a workflow, but like if you want to be able to have your own application to do something, maybe we just don't address it correctly, then we actually can develop that for you and do it in probably faster time and less expense than what you would if you just programmed it out locally. I'll let the pricing come from you guys, Tim.
Okay, perfect. All right, we do not have any other questions at the moment. So we'll give it another 30 seconds here and see if anybody else has any additional questions. Well,
let me say this while we're waiting for the questions, is that this product is sold through the dealers, and we back up the dealers 100%. In some cases, we do the support for them. In some cases, they do the support and they just use us as a support. But it's a tool that they can come in and work with you. We can work with you. If you have in-house resources, then it's a tool that is really robust enough to where you can do your own development. And in our version 4 next year, when we release it, we're going to have predefined what we call APIs, or application program integrations, that if you have custom programs, you can write them and use our platform to mobilize them and put them out in the field.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we do not have any other questions, so we'll go and end it here. So thank you everybody for attending. Thank you very much, Steve, for giving us this great information. And like I said before, an Alliance Solutions group will be following up with everybody who attended here on the session today. So we'll go and end it now. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.